Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Harbert, your host, and with me is my co-host, Mr. Matt Germain. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm blacked out, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at it this morning. See, how much am I paying? It's like, I think $20 a month to Bally, and then I paid $150 for MLB TV, and I'm not able to watch any of the games in the wild card because otherwise I have to have a streaming service. Then MLB would allow me to watch it through their portal. So, daggone, guys, come on, really?
I have no idea that there's playoffs going on. I consider myself a pretty big baseball fan, and I can't watch it. And it's ridiculous. If there's a way to not market the sport, in the day and age when I remember, this is what I know, Mark. Okay, I'll just start there. The year that I was in high school, in senior high, the average viewer of the average viewership of the World Series for Major League Baseball was 35 million people. Okay, for the average each game.
Right.
Right now, 2023, the average was 9 million per game. So what does that tell you? That's all the information you need.
Yeah.
Baseball is just continuously going in the wrong direction. They have no clue what they're doing. Yes, there's more quote unquote money, but it's because they're raking everybody over the coals when they enter that stadium, when they park the car, when they do whatever. And they're in that they're still in that honeymoon period from that time frame of when I graduated high school all the way through to now, where the TV hadn't really turned over completely. But now that they're going through those new contracts with those companies and they're realizing that their model just isn't working anymore, and if you're not going to have the viewership, companies aren't going to sign you up. And just like you would expect, they're taking a hike and going elsewhere into other businesses now.
Well, I mean, we've talked about that before, is about where they get their revenue. And if they're not doing enough to keep the fans and to nurture new fans into the game, you're going to see a lot of folks who are already moving to things like soccer/football and stepping away from baseball as far as their involvement in a sport and where they're investing their time to watch. And it's had an impact. Right now, the news came out about Bally Sports, or Diamond, actually the company that runs Bally Sports. They were filing bankruptcy, I thought, like months ago, and I thought they were getting bailed out with Amazon. But coming back to whatever that they've been doing has not been working. Diamond wouldn't be filing for bankruptcy if everything was going right and how all of this is being promoted to the fans. Give a way that's going to be of interest, find a way to bring the people in there, and there just hasn't been the mindset to get there yet.
Yeah, and I had to laugh with that Amazon thing with the Monday night. Are you kidding me? There shouldn't even be any baseball on Monday nights.
Amen.
And they're taking that as their night to put on Amazon. Like, I get that the majority of people that I know have Amazon Prime because the majority of people that I know buy things from Amazon, so they'll probably be able to watch those games, and that's great. Like, the more access, the better. But like, you've probably heard the gripe that I have, where, oh, this game's on Apple, I'm not getting Apple just for this.
Yep.
Oh, this game's on Dawson, I'm not getting Dawson just for this. I don't even watch football anymore because I refuse. In Canada, you have to get the Dawson package, and it's $30 a month, and I'm not going to pay $30 a month to watch 4 games of football. I can't bring myself to do it. I pay too many other services, so I'm no longer a football fan because of that. And it's just the leagues are not, I don't think, realizing that budgets, and time as well are limited, and fans are deciding, what they're going to stick with and what they're not. And a lot of times it's whichever one carries the most weight. So in my case, I focus on one sport, and that's all that I have to give. And I also have Apple, so if they happen to be on Apple, I'm okay. Yeah.
But you're not on Apple just for baseball, though.
Right. Exactly. I like the intelligent shows.
Oh, they get some of the, oh, good. Yeah. But it gets to be ridiculous, though, Matt. I mean, The whole idea was, I mean, long ago when I had to buy a package for cable, and if I wanted one thing, it cost a base price. If I wanted to add sports, it was another 20 or 30 bucks a month or whatever. But the thing of it was that I knew the day was coming, I'd be able to stream it, I'd be able to pick and choose. But I never thought it would be at a cost that seemed almost prohibitive when I'm not actually getting that full service. You know, I knew when I bought Bally that I wasn't going to be able to see all games, but it just seemed like more and more was going to be chipped away, whether it was Apple, whether it was Amazon, whether it was Peacock. Some of these games are appearing in places outside of Bally, outside of MLB. And it's just got to be, it's a nuisance.
Yeah, and the scary part of it is, Mark, that if they're losing older fans like me, right? And they're so right now, if I wanted to go back into football, I couldn't. Just because I would have to relearn all the names, get hyped about this, get hyped about that. The history, I would have a huge gap in knowledge of where the players stand, where the teams stand. The idea, yeah, I could probably work my way back into it over time, but it wouldn't be the same. So once that fan cuts the cord, and I've seen it happen, being a Montreal Expos fan, when they got angry about this whole strike thing that they had in 93 and yada yada yada, like that was a moment where you lost millions of fans. And there's a whole bunch of other ones that have happened over the years. 1980 something, it was another strike. And when you have those moments when fans decide to turn the page, you lose them forever a lot of the time. So with these packages and with this whole TV not getting sorted out and not being cohesive in one source, where yes, it includes the playoffs. Like in my case, I paid $150 at the beginning of the year to get all of the games in Canada on MLB TV, knowing that the Blue Jays games were going to be blacked out. That's fine. I don't care. I don't watch the Blue Jays. So for me, it was a win-win. But at first, the first 2 years that I had that, you were able to get the playoff games. At some point in time, that changed, and all of a sudden they black you out for all the playoffs, expecting you to go and buy some sort of TV package with Rogers or somebody else so that you can watch these games. Are you
Right.
kidding? Like, I'm not going to spend $150 on a TV pack or even 25 extra dollars each time that I want to watch one playoff series. It doesn't make any sense. So MLB is so short-sighted in how they are dealing with instead of just taking ownership of it, saying, okay, we're going to have our system, MLB, not any other company. We're going to charge this amount to make this amount of money, and we're going to sell advertising ourselves, like grown-ups, like a corporation that has a whole bunch of connections around the world and can surely bring advertising into that streaming service, whatever it ends up being. No, instead, they're picking apart fans left, right, and center to the point where they're losing millions. And it's killing the sport, literally.
I have no words for that because I'm with you on that 100%. And I just cannot keep opening my pocketbook for game after game. It feels
Right.
like, what is it? What do you call it? Pay-per-view. Oh, there's a big wrestling match tonight. Yeah, it's the World Wrestling Federation. I got to see this, whatever it might be. And it's like, no, no, no. Is that what MLB is going to become like with postseason games? I mean, they kind of have, and I've joked before where you say, well, guess what, Matt? I guess I'll mosey on down to the local bar and watch a game there because uh, I'm not paying more money. I'm sorry. I love the game, and MLB TV, you can actually watch it the next day or sometimes as close as 90 minutes later and watch the game, and I'm okay with that. Oh, looking here, since I can't watch the game, I'm looking at game day on my phone. The Kansas City Royals are up 2-1. It's top of the ninth. There's a manager challenge. I have no idea. We'll find out more here soon, I guess. But I'm not able to see this. I'd love to see this right now. I'd love to see Bobby Wood Jr. I'd love to see, Salvador Perez out there. I'd love to see all of that young, fantastic talent that the Orioles have, but that's not going to happen, you know?
Did you
Uh,
ever watch the TV series called Brockmeyer?
yes, I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so perfect because it's exactly what I see happening to baseball, not to that extreme yet, but headed there, where, they're becoming such a fringe sport over time. And I know there's positive things, there's this, there's that, there's ways of it turning around and I'm not saying the health of the sport altogether is in such a crisis mode that it can't be revived. I just think that it's going to take a lot more work than people think. And the greatest place they could start would be by making it accessible to everyone so that they fill the stadiums again and then, and get people watching the sport as much as possible.
Well, it's going to take that. I mean, it's going to take a different kind of excitement. It's kind of funny when I think that one of the most exciting things happening as far as fans in baseball this year was probably the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah.
People pay more for a ticket for that than just about anything else. They sell out wherever they go. It's like going to a Taylor Swift concert. They sell out months in advance, but they're doing something right. I don't think everybody needs to be wearing yellow uniforms and doing dances between every play, but why not?
I
uh,
always, I always saw baseball as a romantic sport,
yeah,
right? There's a romance with baseball. There's the take me out to the ball game. There's the atmosphere, the whole family going to the ball game together and bringing a mitt and doing. There's just it's supposed to be the core game when it comes to family and community, right? It's got a different feel than all the other sports. And I think MLB momentarily tapped into that with the Field of Dreams game, and that was outstanding.
yeah.
That event was great, but they need more of that. They need more things like that. And to make the game affordable and viewable again would be a really good place to start.
Well, I would love to see more things like that as well, finding ways to get the people engaged with the game. And you and I have talked several times about minor league teams, about the excitement at those places, and how sometimes, yes, it's as much an event as it is a game to see. Where you could walk around some of these parks and the different things, may even have games for children around there. But it's an involved family event. And there's a closeness when you're in the park that you're not going to get on the television, but there's also an engagement at that level. And it wouldn't hurt, I think, for a lot of us fans, maybe just to consider 2025 as a year we're going to pick a minor league or two and go watch them. And then, the other part is too, how do they get there? Well, once again, if you're looking at children coming up, the little leagues, yes, there's a lot going on there. There's also the senior leagues. I mean, get all the way up to, I think, about 16 to play in there. But there's American Legion leagues. There's recreational leagues. There's all kinds of even semi-pro leagues to be able to watch. And maybe that's what needs to be nurtured, because sometimes I think we're just throwing a lot of money into something where it's not that much different than what we see on a local level with a smaller team.
Correct. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well, I'm uh, sitting here in Tampa, waiting for a shovel to go into the earth for a new stadium. And I tell you what, man, I don't know what's going to be there. After Helene came through and did a lot of damage over around Treasure Island and the St. Pete area, and I keep thinking about before the council voted yes, one of the questions was, well, do you think we'll have enough money here for beach nourishment? And that's because there is going to be erosion anyway over time. And they said, yeah, we got plenty in the account, but Helene may have changed some of that. So I hope that doesn't impact anything with the future of the stadium. But Helene is a bitch. And we're, myself and others, were fortunate that there hasn't been as much as far as fatalities here. But as you and I well know, up in North Carolina and elsewhere, it has been completely devastating, wiping out whole towns. I do know family around here who basically had their house completely flooded and are tearing out carpeting and walls and everything else to boot. But outside of that, here in the Tampa area, I don't think there's, not that it's ever, I don't want to say a loss of life has been minimal, but any loss is too much. But it's not as much as I would have thought.
Yeah, my heart goes out to anybody that's lost significant things or had family members that have, and had to rebuild and are having issues rebuilding because of all the bureaucracy that goes with that, including insurance and everything
Yeah.
else. But you're right. It's going to change a lot of landscapes going forward. I don't know if they can build the Rays Stadium on stilts, but it's definitely not a joke, you know. Like I pay attention a lot to the weather. Just part of my Air Force career, you know, you're always on the weather apps. And one of the ones that I follow noted before Helene came through that the water levels have gone up a half a foot since 1991. So you think 6 inches isn't much, right? But
Yeah.
when you're starting there and then you have the surge above that and it keeps going up every year, well, it doesn't take long before you figure out that, you know, the water is starting higher and it's going to end up a lot higher. And hopefully there's systems that they can build and put in place to prevent it from having the same impact the next time, so that people can rebuild confidently.
Well, I hope that's the case because it's in Florida, it's hard to even buy a home, and because you're not going to be able to get any kind of flood insurance. And now, like, we were saying earlier, I think with North Carolina, those people are not going to be able to get any kind of insurance. But anyway, the one thing I know up in North Carolina is the Durham Bulls. I was glad to see the Durham Bulls. It doesn't look like the field was hurt much, and unfortunately, everything else miles, not several miles away, was quite a bit of devastation. The good news is that a little bit of light hopefully will be there in about a week. I'm going to be heading up to Durham for the All American Women's Baseball tournament coming up here. It's a classic, rather. And it's going to be some of the top talent, Matt. We're going to see folks like from the Canadian team, the U.S. team. I think there's even a lady from the Mexican team who were there at Thunder Bay for the World Tournament, about a month ago. So we're seeing top tier talent, and it's cool, man, because what you'll see is you will see some young ladies who've been discovered through the MLB development program in the mid-teens, and then you'll have other players who are seasoned veterans who are entering the fifth decade of life. And but the thing of it is there's just such a variety of people. But if you saw any of that as far as the World Baseball Classic, seeing Japan win that, seeing the USA get the silver, and seeing Canada get the bronze, to see the athleticism, the commitment, to me, that is as much as exciting as anything I've seen in any Major League Baseball park. So I'm looking forward to going to that.
Oh, I want to hear all about it once you do go and once you see the games and the events taking place. I do know there's a lot of ways that people can support the event, even if they're not going. They have a site built where they can actually, donate. They can become a member, sponsor, volunteer. They can buy some shirts. Anyways, there's a lot of different ways to support the event and baseball in general in that way. So if you want a link to the site, just look up the AmericanGirlsBaseball.org, and they have a lot of information there about the tournament itself.
They've done a great deal, so they will certainly appreciate the support. We've had a lot of the folks that are up. They're going to be up there on the show. Souza Pay, the lady who's kind of led this path for the All American Girls, and I'm really excited about it. Please give them a hand. I mean, they are trying to build a new league of their own. The teams, they get some of the initial names like the Comets, the Peaches, and I don't know why I can never recount them all, but there's going to be some top talent. I'm really looking forward to it. And if you can, as Matt pointed out, go ahead and go to their site and go ahead and donate or buy some tickets. It would be even better. Buy some tickets and come. I am also going to put that information in the show notes beneath this as well. So,
Mark,
yeah.
the last out for the Orioles in 2024 was Gunnar Henderson, who struck out
Oh,
on, it's the way their season ends. The Royals are through and the Tigers are through. And I think if you would have predicted that at the beginning of the season in Vegas, you would have made a lot of money.
oh yeah. Oh, well, that's a heck of a wrap. We've had Nathan Andrews on here before from Full Count Chaos, and I was pulling for him for him since we didn't make it there. But wow. Yeah, but haven't the Orioles been close now several times and they just haven't made it past the first tier in the postseason? It seems like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But
they got a little bit further when they had their one run there recently. I want to say it was in the early 2020s or in the late teens. Uh,
hmm,
but yeah, it was like an odd year. It was like just boom, everything clicked, and then boom, everything went out again. So
jeez.
yeah, you have to feel for them because I mean they traded a lot of talent for this year, right? Like they gave the Rays a bunch of talent for Zach Eflin, who threw today, threw decent, 4 innings, only gave up 1 run, and did his job. I mean, 4 innings isn't great, but he didn't give up a whole lot either. So I mean, they gave up a lot of talent for him. They gave up talent for other players, especially to the Marlins. So they're, I don't want to say the cupboards are bare by any means, but they're not as stocked as they used to be. So now everything starts getting a little bit more tedious for them to manage going forward. And the players they do have on board are going to start getting more expensive over time. They have a lot of room to go on that front. But yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see what that means now that the Rays have the top system in the majors and some money to deal with as well. It you have to feel for the Orioles basically and their fans because I think they expected much more from their team this year.
Yeah, they did. I mean, I know it's still a young team, but and I think they did pretty well. I mean, where they were at, I really thought they were going to take the whole thing as far as the division. Yankees just led it strong toward the end, and the Orioles just couldn't seem to catch up, and it's unfortunate. So we'll see what comes of them in the future. But I am curious what's going to happen down in Miami, man. Really, with them firing basically all the coaches. What Skip Schumacher agreed to go, and so I don't think there's anybody on the coaching staff that was there before. Usually they leave somebody. Let's see. I am looking at an article from the Herald. Said the Marlins parted ways with their entire coaching staff and about a dozen employees overall this week. Multiple sources said the departures are headlined by pitching coach Mel Stoudemire Jr. and hitting coach John Mabry. Other coaches who were informed that they are no longer with the team, assistant hitting coaches Bob Mueller and Jason Hart, third base coach Griffin Benedict, infield coach Jody Reed, bullpen coach Wellington Cepeda, bullpen coordinator Rob Filippo, I'm sorry, field coordinator Rod, pardon me, Barajas, and bullpen catcher BJ Lopez. Man, said all the coaches had expiring contracts. Well, I guess they did. I mean, they just whacked it all out. I mean, right as with Skip Shoemaker's gone, and what are they going to do? I said I'm still scratching my head. I mean, Jeter left. Okay, I could see some of that, maybe some personality stuff. And they got Kim Ang, and I was just, hey, this is fantastic. They got a really talented woman who's worked for MLB and who's worked with the Yankees. Who's the woman who signed Garrett Cole, and I thought, yeah, they've got somebody really strong there. Now then, then she left. So I don't know about that organization.
Yeah, there's definitely warning signs there that, ownership is not um doing a great job of selling from things or their vision from the top down. Now, you could argue that Peter Bendix probably wants to put his stamp and his people in place and change the page because if you if you're somebody like Kim Ng and Derek Jeter and you have a lot of influence through the organization, when they leave for the reasons that they left, right? And there could be a lot of Yankee isms in there, okay? Where they want it all and they want it now, sort of thing, right? The Steinbrenner way or no way. So if they left and they left that sour taste in everybody else's mouth and that attitude that goes along with it, that they're being done wrong all the time, then it's hard for the organization to go forward like that. So it might just be that they turn the page, they get new personnel in there that are gonna buy into the system, sort of like what the Rays did with their roster in 2018, right? Where they had to clear out everybody. They sent Evan away, they sent everybody away. They made it Kevin Cash's team so that he could sell his vision and it became his team and the Rays way, and it changed everything going forward after that. I think the Marlins are doing the same kind of thing. It's going to be painful, and we'll see who they bring in. If I know anything about Rays executives, they tend to, pluck a lot of them out of the Rays organization. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a few Rays coaches and managers get plucked away. But we'll let's wait and see what they actually do. I do think Skip Schumacher is going to end up getting a job somewhere very quick. I don't think he's going to sit around very long. There's a lot of teams out there that would do very well to bring him in. I think Toronto should do it right away. I have no idea what they're doing with their coaching staff, but it's ridiculous that they're keeping things the way they are.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a lot of other teams that are in the same kind of place where a change would do them well. The Rockies come to mind, or like there's just they're stagnant in a lot of ways, and they
Yeah.
need change. So yeah, I'm at least they're not sitting still, and they're not feeling sorry for themselves, and they're kind of moving on to different things. Sometimes different is better.
Well, thinking about something different and looking for a change as we enter the postseason, Matt, I can't help but think about the Mariners, because they've never been there. They've never, what are they, they're 45, 50 years? I can't remember how long they've been in existence now, but they've never made it to the World freaking Series.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I don't know how many lives Jerry Dipoto has, but it's kind of ironic that he's able to stay on and make as many moves as he does year after year after year, without building a cohesive team that is together long enough to really, make that push go where it probably should. But they've had a lot of bad luck along the way too. Like, I don't want to. Like, the injury bug always seems to hit them in the worst spots at the worst times.
Yeah.
Uh, and you can't help it. They also the one thing I'll also say about the Mariners, they have the worst travel schedule of any team in baseball. So they do have a gripe that they can use to point to as a weakness on their front. But, they know about it ahead of time. There's things they could probably do to help themselves be better on that front. And they've never actually really committed. So I don't know if you've listened a lot to the rhetoric that their front office and their ownership have been putting out there, like even before the year starts, where they cry poor. They they're always kind of in that, oh, woe is me, I don't have any money, blah, blah, blah. And that stadium is full all the time. It's a beautiful stadium and it should be full. But I just don't buy that they can't afford to chip in more
Yeah.
to get themselves over the hump if needed. Now, I'm not saying it's the way they should do it. I'm just saying that it's an avenue that they could, if they wanted to be aggressive and really push the envelope, one year. Uh, but it might also be time for Jerry Dipoto to kind of move on and try something new somewhere else, and for them to try a different approach and see if it works.
That sounds like a bit of wisdom to me. So hopefully somebody in the front office will take that under advisement and make the change. And ownership needs to do something.
Do you
But
think Ichiro would manage?
oh man, wouldn't that be so cool? I mean, you got a fellow who's right there on the coast. So it's not
I
like
would
he's gonna be go
love
ahead.
to see, I would love to see it. I really would. Mm.
I mean, yeah, a legend like that. Oh my gosh. I mean, just the enthusiasm that would bring to the whole system. Much like you well, it's not the same thing, but much like you're talking about bringing Alonso to the race, those are the type of moves I think that can engage, fans and build some more excitement, not just amongst us, but maybe from the team, the guys in the dugout and all that. So yeah, boy, oh, I love that. You got to send that one in, brother.
Yep, I don't know if he would be willing to take it on himself as a like because he's living the golden life. He's rich, he can do whatever he wants. His commitments are light. Uh, and to go from that to an everyday basis, the grueling uh, major league schedule being what it is. But I think his enthusiasm, his love for the game would be infectious. And if he is willing to do it, I think he really um, could be the one that pushes them over the edge and really gets that player buy-in, day in, day out, and gets everybody cohesive. Because if anything I've seen with him, people gravitate to him. And when he's talking or when he's showing them things or everything he does just seems to turn to gold in baseball. So, so yeah, I think you're right. It would be a really huge game changer if he was able to take that on. I just wanted to point out too that the series in the American League now that are coming up are going to be the Yankees and the Royals will face off, and the Tigers and the Guardians will face off. So
Wow.
as long as the Royals beat the Yankees, I'm a happy man.
Here, brother. I'm with you 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Wow. We could talk some more. I mean, if you like, we could talk about Pete Rose, but I think everybody else is saying a lot about it. Is there anything you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I can talk about Pete Rose a bit. I don't mind that.
Okay.
To me, it's because I grew up in Montreal, right? And he only played for a certain number of teams. Montreal was one of them. I got to see him a little bit, hear him talk when I was young, and kind of, you know, because when he came up, I was basically just starting to play competitive baseball. So I was really paying attention to what was going on with the Montreal Expos. He came up and it was near the end of his career. So like I knew all about him. I just didn't know, what it meant to play baseball at 43 years old. And not many people had done it at that point. But like let's just put aside all the gambling stuff and all the nonsense, okay? Here you have a guy from Cincinnati, okay, who came up with the Cincinnati Reds, wins the Rookie of the Year,
Yeah.
right? In 1963, plays 16 years for that team. So by the age of 37, he had played 16 years for the same team. He'd won an MVP, he'd won a World Series. Like everything to that point was just storybook. Like there's no fault. I mean, you had a season where he's hit 338, another one he hit 348, another one he hit 335. He's just a pest. He's doing everything he can to be on the bases and to be a gold glover. I think he won 2 gold gloves. He was just he was part of the red machine. Like he's just, one of those players that right then at 36 or 37, he could have retired and been in the Hall of Fame. Not only does he keep playing, right, after that fact, but he still manages to finish his career after 24 years. How many players do you know play 24 years in Major League Baseball and be used? Like, I think in his final year or at 44 years old, he played in 119 games. Like there's guys right now that can't even, like Anthony Rendon can't play 119 games right now. And he's about a decade younger, right?
There you go.
So, and he still finished his career with a 303 average. And he ended up, so I like to look at the longevity because to me that speaks a lot to the heart and soul of what a player is willing to do. And I think that's where Major League Baseball got it wrong by not, putting everything aside, moving on, penalizing him in some way, shape, or form, but still having him in the Hall of Fame. Because when you look at how many more games he's played in 200 more games than anybody else, like 200, more than 200 games than anybody else. So he's played a full season more than anybody else in baseball history. Just that in itself, right,
Yeah.
is a feat that you have to recognize. And we talked about, not marketing itself in the right way. The fact that the news with or the stories with Pete Rose were not about his feats as a baseball player, but instead continuously about the gambling and the type of person he was, and putting the game down as a result, right, is a fallacy. It's just stupid, meaningless, heartless, and it makes baseball look like a sham. They
Yeah.
think it makes themselves look better because they're pushing a gambler aside. That's nonsense. Everybody's got faults. And it is pretend that you're not at fault as a baseball league is ridiculous. My God, there's so many things the baseball leagues have gotten wrong over the years. It's insane, including not addressing, PEDs when they should have, including a whole bunch. I could name a million different ones. Handing Jeffrey Loria interest-free loans so he could sink the Montreal Expos and yeah. Anyways, uh, all I want to say about Pete Rose is this: he is the epitome of what a Hall of Famer should be. Meaning that when he walked off the field at 45 years old as a player, he had left every single ounce of his baseball skill on that field. So the fact that he's still to this day not in the Hall of Fame is a shame. It is sad, and it needs to be rectified as soon as we get a real commissioner in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. Well, you know my opinion of the Hall of Fame. I don't really give it much credit anymore. There's too many players I felt like that maybe got in there who shouldn't, and there's some who like at Lupinella who should have been in there and has not. And I think sometimes because some people just got their nose out of joint, and so.
It's a
But Pete
popularity
Rose,
contest, really.
hmm,
It's a popularity contest,
it
is all it's
is.
become. Yeah.
It is, it's I was watching Dan Patrick's show, at least part of it today, and he had Johnny Bench on.
Mm.
And it was interesting because Johnny was very upfront about some things about Pete. One of them was that, is that he and Pete would often disagree, but they would part any meeting with a hug. That whatever ideas or things they may have had disagreements upon, they still were those two teammates that were together. And that felt really good to hear that. The other thing he said was a while back that I think it was some event coming up where they were going to honor the Reds and the machine, whatever what it was, they were going to honor the Reds. And Pete went over to Johnny Bench and said, I want to apologize because I know at events like this and even honoring you, the thing that is going to come up, it's going to be about me. It's going to be about gambling.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's apologizing because he felt like he stole his limelight away from what was important to just focus on that part of his life that he wasn't necessarily proud of. But
So I want to just like the craziness. Okay. So you're talking about the gambling, right?
yeah,
Baseball statistics, right? And I'll keep it very, 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 very simple. Uh, if a player has 15,876 plate appearances, which is what Pete Rose had, right? What do you think his strikeout percentage should be?
oh Lord, I wouldn't know where to guess on that one. To be quite honest with you, man, what would
So,
be
so an average player would be somewhere between 20% and 25%.
okay?
So Pete Rose was at 7.2%.
No,
7.2%.
no,
And his walk percentage was 2.7% higher than that. So if you look at a player, normally if their walk percentage matches their K percentage, that's a great thing. It's like a great feat, right?
yeah,
If their K percentage, like just to give you an example, I think Luis Arraez for like some seasons. Hang on, let me look it up just so I'm not talking out of my
no.
because I
When you asked, I was thinking maybe 30%, but so more like 20, 25 as far as the
yeah, the
average.
average normally, yeah,
And
is
he's
somewhere.
7%. Good
7%.
cheese and crackers.
And why isn't that the focus, right? Why what so right now in over 6 years, Luis Arraez is at 6.8%. So he not only got that much in terms of the strikeout percentage, but imagine if Luis Arraez, he's only done it for 6 years. Imagine if he has to do that for another 18 years. Right? Like that's the craziness of it all. Is that the average? I'm sure there's years that Pete Rose probably had it a lot lower if you look at his strikeout percentage, and I should open it up just to see. But yeah, so when you're looking at it, like this is crazy because it's at age 37 all the way through age 42. He averaged 4.4 to 5 percent K percentage. Those were his dominant years of not striking out were age 37 or 36 all the way to age 42. You're not supposed to be able to do that. You're not supposed to be able to lower your strikeout percentage as you get older. That's like complete opposite of all the guys in their bats slowing down, right? Yeah, I want to focus on that when I talk about Pete Rose. I don't want to talk about the gambling. I want to talk about when you're watching him run the bases, you knew you were going to get run over. You knew that he was going to run hard. There was no stopping, that train coming around the tracks. And
Charlie
he was
Hustle.
not right. And he wasn't a big guy. He was 5'11", about 200. So he's built like me, basically. That's I'm about an inch shorter, but I weigh 200 pounds, and so I was a rugby player. I wasn't a baseball player. There's no way, you know. So he ran and you could tell, it was just his eyes lit up, and he was just running extremely hard. And that's what I remember about watching him play in Montreal was just that intensity and that love of the game was there still at 43 years old. And I just think that it gets missed a lot of times. Yes, he's a faulty human being when it comes to gambling. Yes, there's a lot of lying that went on, and there's trust issues. I
Oh
guess
yeah.
is the best way to put it. But he belongs in the Hall of Fame, and it shouldn't have happened after he died. It should have happened while he was alive, because he gave baseball more than he took away.
Oh, that's most certainly true. I think what we need to do is see if we can buy a spot of land across from Cooperstown and build a Pete Rose museum there. And
We'll call
just,
it New Florida,
I like it. I like it.
Nova,
Oh.
Florida.
No, no. I mean, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and was always on the radio listening to our Reds because Cincinnati was just right down the road,
Mhm.
and I always looking at the baseball cards of the time with him and Johnny Bench and others, and it was just like, it's and the whole gambling thing came out, but it's. I'm going to stop talking about it because I think what you had to say about him as an athlete should be the thing that stands today on our conversation. All right, brother. Any other goodies?
No, the AFL should start off pretty soon, and I haven't heard yet if any Rays prospects are going down to the ABL yet or not. But the off season is going to start pretty quick. We're already done two wild card series, and I don't know what's going to happen in the playoffs altogether. I don't know if MLB is going to get their wish of the Dodgers and Yankees being in the World Series, but I know it's going to be a tough go based on history. And we'll see what the ratings look like in the end, and what the Rays end up doing with their off season. So we'll have to hope that they can get shovels in the ground. I hope that what you're talking about in terms of the stadium issues and the
Right.
bills and yada 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 doesn't turn out to be something that holds that back, but it very well could. And yeah, I'll still look at the highlights of the games in the playoffs, and I hope others do, and I hope that they do watch. I just know I can't, so it's too bad.
Yeah, likewise, my friend. And I'm looking here again at my game day on my phone. The Mets just put up another run. It's 3-1 over the Milwaukee in the top of the second. So pardon me, the Mets have certainly put on the gas. We'll see how it plays out. I really want to see the Brewers win because of the gas we get from the Farmer Rays on there, but we will see what comes.
Yep.
All right, Matt. Thanks again, buddy. It's always fun chatting with you about baseball and yet another great week. Enjoy the rest of the postseason, and we'll catch up later on.
Sounds good, Mark. You take care.
You too. Once again, I want to thank you all again for joining us here today on Baseball Biz on Deck. And remember, you can find us here. You can find us on Spotify, Apple. Oh, we're everywhere. iHeartRadio, baseballbizondeck.com. And also remember what we were saying earlier about the All-American Women's Baseball Classic coming up here in Durham, and going to the website, which I put in the notes, where you can come and help out because it's going to be a fantastic event. So thanks again for joining us here today on Baseball Biz, and we look forward to talking with you all again real soon. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music rocking forward.